We're now going. This is basic Kabbalah 101 is to know your sefirot. Okay? 10 Sefirot starts on page. You already had it in front of me before you, okay? 10 Sefirot, chapter 3. We went back. I know I skipped. Okay, just be on page 22. Okay?
It was 25.
No. 22 is Sefirot. 10 Sefirot of nothingness. If you look in one of the oldest Jewish books we have in tradition called Sefer Yetzirah. Classic book. This one is nicely worn. Okay? The first chapter gets into these, what's called 10 Sefirot. Classically, everybody translated it as 10 illuminations.
Yeah, why is it?
Because they illuminate your brain. They illuminate us. Because you know something, we are finite beings. And we are in a process of awakening to infinity. Yes. Infinity is in a process of about to hit us. Okay?
You bet.
Destiny is coming our way. And we need to be prepared.
We are.
Yeah.
There are a couple of YouTubes by Rabbi, Laser Brody?
Wonderful. Unbelievable.
Donald Trump and how, from Rabbi Brody, and his victory, and the purpose he plays. He's actually a good Esav.
I'm okay with that.
Rabbi Brody, not
I'll buy anything. Anything that spells redemption, I'm
Oh,
okay.
it's coming.
Just save us,
He has a
okay?
role in assisting.
Just get us out of here, okay?
That's Rabbi
Just
Brody.
get us out, okay?
Are you live?
Yes, I am. I'm so okay with it.
Cool.
It's a great story. My father-in-law, he once challenged these certain Hasidim. I won't name who they are.
Oh boy.
These certain Hasidim are very dedicated to their Rebbe and think that he is the Messiah. Or actually, he passed away, so he couldn't be the Messiah.
The Mishichas, yeah.
We won't go about it. We won't. And anyways, he had a very sharp conversation with these gentlemen, and he says, "You guys are the last person to recognize the Mashiach, because for you, he has to be this, and this, and this, and people have a lot of criteria." You know, what kind of strimal he has to have, or no strimal, yes strimal, what kind of kippah, what background. I mean, forget it. Let me finish. Okay. My father-in-law says you guys are the last people, because if he was some, what do you call it? I'm going to say it like he said it, okay? It was an overweight black woman who would come through the door and saying, "I'm the Messiah. I'm there. Just save me." And you guys couldn't be able to hear it, okay? So, he went extreme, but for a purpose, okay?
Can I say something in all fairness?
You're live.
Speaking, okay, on behalf of the Kabbalah Hasidic community, please ignore any Meshichas because they do not represent Lubavitch.
We know that. All right.
Yes. What
What we are now going into in Judaism 101, Kabbalah 101, is you have to know the Sefirot. You cannot move without it. It is the basic jargon of all Kabbalistic doctrine. Everything goes into the roots, and these are the ultimate roots, and you have to know these 10 roots. Okay? Like I said, we're finite, and we are in the process of awakening to the infinite. And I use this word exactly, awakening to the infinite. Okay, waking up. Okay, when we would have come to Zion, we would have been like dreamers. Okay? So in order to have that to be a pleasant awakening, okay, it's nice to have a way of communicating, a bridge. You need a method. You need handles. You need tools. How to grasp infinity. Because you can't grasp infinity. We're finite. As soon as we try to think, the definition of a concept, as soon as you put a concept on something, that's automatically finite. So you jump right back into your finite. So here we have this bridge, the 10 Sefirot, which is going to help us to grasp infinity. That's why we call it 10 illuminations. Okay, but they're called much more, as you have here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 definitions here. Okay? But the idea really is this, and I said in the first line here, and the very first set of Mishnayot, of Mishnahs in the Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, always starts off to describe the Sefirot as 10 Sefiros bli ma, which means of nothingness. Without what? In other words, you can't really go there. You're not really going to grasp the essence of a sefirah. Okay? Only what comes from the sefirah. It's like a hole that something comes out of, but you cannot grasp the area. Okay? And actually, in Sefer Yetzirah, I'm going to bring a lot of things to you. Okay? But don't worry, because we're going to go over it. You go over it, and if you continue the study, you go over it, you get it, it comes, and it gets niched in. Okay? So don't freak out if you don't. Okay? Because I'm going to throw like some stuff at you. Okay? Because I just like to. Okay? So the idea here is the Sefer Yetzirah does not mention vowels. So so a lot of people, a lot of Kabbalists will put the Sefirot in the form of vowels. Okay? Because vowels really don't have anything to it. It's dots and lines. They have sounds, but it doesn't really have anything that could carry a message. Which is very symbolic of a sefirah, which you can't really grasp the message.
It's like the Torah.
Well, the Torah has letters, thank God. Because letters are the vessels. And the vessels have vowels, which is like your engine, which is like your gas for the letters. Okay? They help the letters to go. Otherwise, the letters will sit there also without a vowel. Okay? We'll get into this, but just to give you the idea. So we want to go to the end picture here, because we spoke about the fact that there was I'm always challenged with finding a right marker, and I always tell myself, bring your own next time, and maybe you'll get a good one that works, okay? No, well, let's try red. Bingo. Okay. So we have here, I'm going to draw these circles here. Okay. And it's very important to have this. Here's your 10 characters in the play. We're gonna have a play. There's gonna be 10 characters, and you gotta know your characters, okay? It's not like some places, some movies where people get lost in characters. You're gonna have to know these characters, okay? I'm gonna introduce each one of these characters. Really, they're the same person, just wearing a different costume, okay? It's going to be the same light that's going to come from here to here, shining all the way down from here, from top to bottom. Okay? So the thing is, last time that we talked about, or the last many classes, we talked about really the Sefirot were lined like this, one on top of the other, in a one-column array. At least the lower 7 were. Okay? Not the first 3, the lower 7. And here we see after, when they were fixed, when they get attached to the root, they're going to be in what we call the 3-column array. Very important to get this, okay? Okay? 1, 2, and 3. You have a right, left, and center. Very important. Okay? There's going to be a lot of facts that are going to go into this, because really I call this the spiritual DNA of creation. Every single thing in creation goes into this, one of these things. Every single thing. 10. Come on. You guys can think now to yourselves. 10 just in the Chumash, in the 5 books of Moses. Anything that is in 10 hooks up to these. Okay? Anything. The 10 statements of creation.
10 Commandments.
10 Commandments, right?
Dominion. Tablets.
That's also good. I didn't even think about that one. And then there is also, what other 10? Anybody can name any other 10s in the Bible?
10 Tzaddikim?
Yeah, it's
7 Tzaddikim, the lower 7, which is good, because that goes according to this. Okay?
No, there's no.
I mean, as in, I'm thinking of
10 righteous
Vayera.
people.
What? Everybody's talking at once
The
here.
plagues.
10 plagues is
10 plagues.
exactly
I thought it
10
was-
plagues, 10 tests of Abraham.
Yeah,
Okay?
I was thinking of when you were talking about when Abraham Avinu is talking with Hashem about Sodom and Amorah. He says he gets all the way down to 10.
10 men, 10 righteous men, which is a set, it's a whole. Yes, yeah.
And days between Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur.
Nice. Okay?
10 what?
Any single thing that you find in
Days
10.
between Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, right.
Right? It's yes, totally this. Every single thing, this is the root pattern of everything. If you grasp this, then every single thing makes total sense. And not only that, you are in alignment. Because then you can use your mind and your powers of concentration and focus and energy to reap the benefits of whatever is going on. You are able to hook things up to the root. Okay? That's why it's so important to know this. Now, a lot of places don't study this. Okay? Shh. Okay. Okay? So, here I have here rule number 1. I didn't put names yet. Their essence cannot be described, like I just said. One can experience the sefirot only in high levels of meditation. They must be experienced. They must be experienced. I underlined it. Any description of the sefirot is derivative, but not their essence. You can't touch a sefirah. You can dream about a sefirah. I dreamed about Bina once, glowing, some kind of dull glow, okay? But that was it. Okay, I knew it was Bina, but that was it, okay? So, what is the word sefirah? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different words in Hebrew. And everything in Hebrew obviously is going to indicate or give an arrow to what its root is. Okay, but like I said, there's 5. So you're going to have to go ahead and use your mind to go ahead and put it together. Okay? One is l'saper, to express or to communicate. This is like how God is going to communicate His will. Okay? 10 statements of creation. 10 commandments. Okay? Sapphire, sapir, actually the luchot, the 10 tablets, the 2 tablets were made out of sapphire, stone, okay? But that's really more like sapir is also a meditative state, is also the stone itself, or means brilliance or luminary, okay? Shine. Safar means number, because there are 10 in number. Also, safar means boundary, because obviously if you have 10, you have a boundary. It's 10 and not 11.
Sefer.
It's 10 and not 9. Sefer is book,
Book.
because
That's
it's
the
telling
one.
over.
Right.
All of these words are indicative of, but once again, it's all derivative. Okay? So you get it, but we're going to call them so we can just have a nice grasp of it. The 10 illuminations, that's how it's classically translated. Okay? And every single thing translates into these. No one mentioned actually there were 7 nations of Canaan that we needed to conquer. And there were 3 that we were not allowed to conquer. That's because of this. All the root of this. The 7 nations of Canaan that we had to conquer are the 7 lower sefirot, which represent 7 bad character traits. And when Yeshua conquered the land, he was conquering those 7 character traits, overcoming the evil side. There's a good side and an evil side to the sefirot. You know that. The dark side of the sefirot. Okay? So Yeshua was conquering them, but there were 3 nations which are reserved for when the Mashiach comes, that we couldn't touch. Esav. We wanted to go through Esav. When we were traveling in the desert, if you look into Midbar, we wanted to get to Esav. Esav says, no, come here. We come out with swords and kill you. Okay?
Then Ammon and Moab.
You got it. Those 2 nations. Okay? So those 2 nations represent these 3, which cannot be touched until Mashiach comes. Mashiach will handle those.
Esav, Ammon, and Moab.
They're too, can't deal with it. Too high.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
But Mashiach will come and deal with it. With whatever the fixing of this sefirot. In other words, we need to... Okay? We'll get to it. There's lots to do, and I don't want to get ahead of myself. Okay? All of these words are related concepts and point to the sefirot as having two basic functions. If you'll notice, if you go through the difference of these things, you'll see that sapphire represents something more luminous, okay? While book represents something more of a kli, but yet, a book also has information in it, right? So here's the two things, and it's really important that you get this in terms of Kabbalah and understanding the wisdom of Kabbalah, is that there's something called orot, which means light, and then there's something called kalim, which means vessels. Okay? Orot and kalim. Okay? Orot are, we say, luminaries that serve to reveal and express God's greatness, and yet, in order to grasp them, you need a vessel. A lot of times. Okay? Every single thing. You need a vessel. If you don't have a vessel, and every single thing that we're doing in our growth and learning is to build a vessel in order to receive more light, i.e. the bigger the vessel, more the light. Smaller the vessel, less light. And I'm not talking about a vessel like a cup. We're talking about our minds, okay? Our minds. To expand our minds, but our minds can only receive so much. The idea really is to expand our minds in order to give us the ability to receive more light. So these sefirot also, in a certain way, have both modes in them. Okay? So the sefirot are the most basic modes of God's creative power. That's why I call it the spirit, the DNA. Okay? They make up the inner structure and makeup of the universe and serve as the bridge between God and his creation. So bridge is a key word. Okay? Because there's us, we're finite beings. God is infinite. We need a bridge. We need some way, right? To have some kind of way we can communicate with infinity or have a relationship with infinity. How do you relate to infinity? Okay? So this is the bridge. The 10 Sefirot here are the bridge. Right? The Sefirot are not God, but rather the medium with which everything takes place in the universe. An example of this form is this famous story of the invisible man. But first, before that, the other main rule or main word that you have to know in relationship to the Sefirot, which helps us, is called in Hebrew. Who speaks Hebrew here? Hanhagot. That's Hanhagot. Hanhagot comes from the word nahag. Nahag means
Driver.
Driver. Guide.
Oh, yeah.
Again.
Guide is one word. Okay, driver.
Driver.
It's very hard for me to translate Hanhagot. It really is. I keep trying. I'm dancing around it. How God guides directly the world. Okay?
He's the driver.
So there's 10 Hanhagot. There's 10 ways he is going to drive or guide, okay, things in the world. Okay? A manifestation of sorts, how God is running the world. And there's 10 forms of that. Okay? So the invisible man is the great mashal parable that my father-in-law, Zechusa Yegin Elena, would always tell us. He says here on page 23, the top, if the invisible man was in the room, you'd never know he's dead. Does anybody know the story of the invisible man? I'm dating myself, but that's just too
No, but let's
bad.
do it again. It's good.
He drank a potion and he's invisible, okay? And he's stuck that way. There's no antidote or whatever. He's stuck.
Invisible.
You know, and then, of course, whatever drama that he goes through, you know. But, of course, he would try to listen to people in a room having a conversation. Of course, one guy was really clever and he smoked a cigarette. And he saw the silhouette. Get him! Right. So they tried thinking, whatever. You know, it's all kinds of tricky stuff. But, of course, the invisible man, you'd never know he's there until he does something like pick up a glass and drink, or move something in the room, or smoke a cigarette in those days. I love the cigarette because it was like dangling on the wires that they would use in those days. Or even put on some clothes. He put on bandages and sunglasses and a hat and gloves and a whole suit, and then you know he's in the room.
Yep.
Okay? Garments. Simple. Okay?
His face.
Only after he puts on garments can we have a relationship with him. The Sefirot are very much the same way. They are like garments God wears in order to relate to creation. But they are not God himself, God forbid. Once again, a garment. Keyword, garment. Okay? So I got a few words up here. We have illumination. Okay, we have Hanhaga, which is a guide. We have, what was it, the word I just said? Remind me, I'm testing you.
Guy, garment.
Garment. Got it.
Athena.
Okay? Okay? So there are garments that God wears. Okay? How he behaves with us, and then we learn from those garments. Okay? So here's the concept of revealing and concealing at the same time, because that's what garments do. Garments reveal and conceal. They hide, because you can't really see what's behind them. But yet, the form of the garment is going to reveal what's around the garment. Is it a right hand, or is it a left hand? Right? Is it a right leg, a left leg? Is it a head? Is it a body? Okay? Until you have a garment, right? So the garment acts, so these sefirot act as a revealing and a concealing. It reveals, in other words, there's an aspect of light that is in the sefirah. That's why it's called an illumination. And then there's an aspect of a limitation, because it is a garment. It's just a garment. It's not God's essence. We can never touch God's essence, God forbid. And that's what's very important about this study. And that's why you have to have this very, very key thought that you always have to hold on with you, because this is a handle that saves us from many pitfalls. One of the dangers of learning Kabbalah is taking things and making them very lofty spiritual things and understanding them in a physical form. We talk about spiritual things such as the sefirot, but really we cannot understand things in this physical world as that and congeal. We cannot take spiritual rules and congeal them into a physical form. He's my waiter. Just make sure you tip him at the end, okay? Okay?
Say that again. Repeat that.
Party of three? Party of three, yeah.
Yeah.
Table for three? Table for three.
Thank you. We can't take information.
You cannot take a spiritual lofty concept, okay, and look at it and make it congealed as if the biggest problem with that is, okay, and it's a huge problem. I'll explain right now with the biggest problem that people do say, okay? If we understand that God is all there is, okay, and that everything is God, so that means the table is God, the chair is God, and I'm God.
And that becomes Spinoza.
Yeah.
No.
Well, all of the above. We're not even going to you're outside the realm of Torah. Okay? The problem is, once you go into the idea of this is God and this is God and I see God and this is God and this is God, and then you go, I'm God, and then then we know where that goes. Okay? I mean, obviously this is forbidden thinking in Torah law.
It's not the Holy Sparks. God. The God
Oh yeah, you're explaining it.
They're talking to God particle inside.
Okay, but you understand that there are teachers who do say this, and I've actually sat with them, okay? And that's the worst thing. And if you take the sefirot and you understand the concepts that we are going to go into when we learn the sefirot, you're going to say, okay, if this is this, then a person can, God forbid, start to make a mistake and think that the physical things are God themselves. But it's not so, okay? That's what the point here is. That's what's called anthropomorphism. That's what's called you taking a spiritual concept and bringing it and saying it into something physical, that it is something spiritual. No, it's really the opposite, and that I'm going to share with you right now. Every single thing that we talk about is called a borrowed terminology. Borrowed terminology. Every single thing that we express, all our limited concepts, are borrowed terminology. Don't forget, we are finite beings awakening to the infinite. Okay? So here, how it goes. The sefirot of the Kabbalah are the keys to the precise meaning behind the anthropomorphic tones in the Bible, as we're going to see. We all know that God has no physical form, yet we see so many places in the Bible that ascribe to him body parts, such as the hand of God, an outstretched arm and a mighty hand. Also we see ascribed human emotions, such as wisdom, truth, mercy, justice, and anger. Ascribed to God. God got angry. So some people I know, okay. We can't say that about infinity. We're looking, there's an experience that it would be interpreted as God is angry. okay, such as Pompeii, okay, but we cannot say that and ascribe that to God, okay? So that's why we're going to take this rule, and don't worry, I will keep interjecting it as much as possible to make sure that we don't veer off course, okay? All anthropomorphisms are borrowed terminology, okay? Meaning God borrows terms from his creatures to express his relationship to the world. We're going to explain that right here. The only thing that I remembered from university, the only thing, okay? I was a year in Cal State Northridge, right? Before I took off and went to Israel and went in a cave, okay? For 10 years, okay? My yeshiva was like a cave, okay? It was a good cave. It was a good cave, okay? But between the 80s and the 90s, you know, people would say, well, don't you know this? Or, like, you know, they quote like stars or whatever was going on. Nothing made it into the cave except Michael Jordan. The only guy who made it in the cave. That's anything else. Oh, you didn't see this? You didn't see this movie or this show or this stuff? I'm sorry. I was in a cave. Anyways, the parable of the men in the cave in university. And it is so dynamic and it's so basic, and I can't go over it enough because I love it. It is so, because it's so awakening.
Yeah.
It was the most, like I said, it was the only thing I remembered from university, okay? Was the three men chained in a cave facing the wall, and there's a fire in the cave behind the men, right? To the men in chains, their caretakers are only seen as shadows in which they communicate back and forth on all of their dealings, right? This is Aunt Betty, that's Uncle Ed, right? And they are taking care of us. We have conversations, long conversations with them. Their whole life, they are raised among the shadows on the wall. That right? And right? The whole life, they are raised assuming the shadows on the wall are reality, because that's all they saw their whole lives. Until one of the men is released to the outside world. All that he thought was real his whole life has now faded to become mere shadows on a wall. Of course, he's exposed to the world. His eyes are open, depth, beauty, color, expanse. Okay, after he overcomes the initial shock, he's like, oh my gosh, I got to go tell the rest of the guys. He then goes back to the cave to tell his friends about the real world. Due to his experience outside in the light of day, he is no longer able to see the shadows anymore. And his friends not only refuse to believe him about an enormous bright world, they but consider him crazy because he cannot even see their world clearly. Okay? So you guys, the whole world, you guys don't even know this is nothing. You guys are not, what are you talking about? This is Aunt Betty, that's Uncle Ed, man. What are you talking about? Okay? So, my dear friends, our whole lives, we think that what we are experiencing is real is so not real, and is so true. And all of the books, the holy books of the Kabbalah, all indicate that every single thing in our world is nothing but a shadow of something else that we are completely unaware of. And the only thing that we have is the terms that we call it. We call this a hand. This is not a real hand. This is not a real hand. This is not a real hand.
What is it?
This is the shadow of a hand. We don't know what a real hand is. We don't know. We know it's got a name. It's called hand. H-A-N-D. Yad. Yodalit. But we don't know what a real hand is. You have a head, you have a body, we think this is the real world. We are way off. Okay? We are. Okay? It's a total Twilight Zone. I got a red pill. Okay? You want the red pill or the blue pill? You got a choice now. Okay? I got a red marker or a blue marker. Okay? So.
Okay, well, you got to show us that movie.
Yeah, I will. We'll get to there. We'll get to there. So the idea really is, and when I showed the Matrix to my father-in-law, of course, he's very casually, when Neo wakes up, and they welcome him to the real world. Don't worry about it. And so he says, "Oh, it's a classic philosophical problem. What's the big deal, right? It's an old problem. It's the old problem, right? Right? So." He also mentioned a lot of irony in there that was pretty interesting, because the people who are free are more enslaved in their existence than the actual people who were enslaved. Okay? But in any case, the idea really is what we think is real is not really real. Okay? And you know the physicists all get to this. All the physicists get to, are all, you know, and it's known that they're climbing the mountain, you know, of existence to finally figure out all the formulas to explain the unified field theory and how all the theories are going to go together between special relativity, right, and general relativity, and they're finally going to climb this mountain, and they're going to see the Kabbalists up at the top of the mountain, probably roasting marshmallows, going, "Where you been?" Okay? Or kosher weenies.
Kosher weenie.
Okay? Okay, so here, page 24 at the top. So this is all compared to our dark world versus the world of truth and light. Okay, our world is how old? We're 70 years here, 80, 90, 120. We should all live healthy to 120. But it passes, but Chazal, all the Gemara says it passes like the shadow of a bird. That's the language of the Talmud. Our lives pass so fast like the shadow of a bird in flight. Now that's a weird way to say it. Yeah? The shadow of a bird in flight. It's like a...
Very poetic.
Okay? So this is all compared to our dark world versus the world of truth and light. Since the goal in Judaism is the spiritual and the physical world is only a means of eternal bliss. It's the bridge. The corridor. It's the entranceway before you enter into the big hall. The spiritual world, the eternal existence, would seem to be the world of truth and light. Our world is merely a darkened reflection of what is real. It's a reflection.
Wow.
In other words, there's a spiritual existence that we are all enjoying in some other dimension that we're not necessarily aware of. We'd like to be. We're working on it. Okay? It's not the evil Mr. Spock.
Okay.
Even though it was my favorite episode.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yes.
But there is levels, and we've talked about this, of our soul that are existing, and there are many other things that are reflected, that are in the spiritual realm, and all of them are reflected down into this world. Okay? This world is only, like we always say, that we know that the Torah is the blueprint of creation. And when we say that it is the blueprint of creation, we say that it is not like a blueprint that you look at the plans and you build a house and then you put away the blueprint. It is constantly giving everything its animation, very much like a film projector. Rabbi Kiva Tatz put it this way, and it's the film projector has the light that shines through a film onto the screen. Right? So the screen is this world, the film is the Torah, and the light, of course, is the light of the...
Often Freud used that in the video he made himself as a child.
So really, every single thing that you see in this world is only a reflection of something else going on in the film. Okay? There's other things going on. We have no idea what the small little movements that we make. You know what? It hit me once when I was learning. I don't know where I picked it up. You know, we are existing in 14.5 pounds of pressure. Normal sea level is 14.5 pounds of pressure. It's pressure per square inch, right? What is it? There's pressure. We don't feel it, right? You don't feel pressure, right? Because we're used to it,
Yeah.
right? But meanwhile, there is pressure. If you go down into the sea, you know, if you go, scuba diving, then you feel pressure. If you go down low enough, you feel pressure. And everybody knows if you're in the water, right? And you go like this in the water, it's going to make a wave, right? It's going to have an effect. So why wouldn't we think that if we go like this, in the spiritual realm, wouldn't have an effect? There's just because we're used to it and we don't see what's going on behind the veil or in the spiritual realms, there's a connection, and we're all just a reflection of something down here. For a reason, okay? There's a goal. Thus, all what we experience in the physical realm, including our own physical, emotional, and mental qualities, are a mere reflection, a parable of what is going on in the upper realms. Our hand is not a real hand. We don't know what a real hand or an outstretched arm is. But our hands give us some type of illusion to what a real hand is, but it's not a real hand. So what you're experiencing in this world is not real. Okay? That's how the Kabbalah looks at it. Okay? This allegory is indicative of the relationship of our physical world to the spiritual world. Since we teach everything evolved originally from a spiritual essence and later became solidified and concealed into our physical world, that makes the spiritual world the essence and the more connected to the roots. All that we experience in the physical realm, including our own physical, emotion, and mental qualities, are a mere shadowy reflection of something else really going on. Hence, our hand is not a real hand. We don't know what a real hand or an outstretched arm is. Our experience is thus a metaphor of something else greater and spiritual in nature. Okay? So we're going about our existence, and the idea really is to try to embed very deeply, and as deeply as we can, into our psyche, that what is going on is not necessarily what is real. Okay? Thus, these allegories are used to express such as an outstretched arm and a mighty hand. Yes, God did take us out of Egypt with an outstretched arm and a mighty hand, but we don't know what that is. Okay? It's not we're taking those terms and putting it, right? It's called borrowed terminology. Okay? So thus, these allegories are used to express a very profound relationship between God and His creation. So when we speak of God's eyes, we are alluding to what? Not physical eyes, God forbid. We are alluding to His being aware of everything, and God's hand is an expression of power. The Sefirot are the coded root form of all of these expressions. Okay? So that's why we have to lose when we talk about it, because we're going to talk about physical parts. That's why I need to give you this. Is it hot in here or is it me? Someone want to turn on the AC?
Mm-hmm.
I've been melting all day.
I don't know.
Okay, I'll do it. Dial, I think.
Tomorrow's gonna be long.
Be careful on one of yours.
I'm not gonna be out. I'm not gonna be out. The afternoon shots will be over.
Sand, or you'd like
It gets, you know something, David, if you want to open up that door because it gets hot. I can't, it's not working. Yeah. Does it open? Which way does it open? Out? Perfect. Put a chair there.
Oh, that's nice. I feel it around. Breeze, yeah.
Okay.
And on a level, we all know this. Intuitively.
That's why anybody who experiences this has an awakening. Anybody who sat in the philosophy class went, okay, there could be something much bigger going on. And to some people who are attuned, it certainly makes sense because life is too short and it doesn't have meaning otherwise. And all of this is indicative of the existence of a soul and the existence of the spirit realm and the existence of other things that are going on besides what our senses see.
So anytime I'm doing something, whether it's a mitzvah or
The
not,
opposite.
the opposite.
The dark side of the force.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then there is some other kind of existence where
No, we're going to say like this. We're going to say there's an effect.
there's an effect.
Huge effect. Look at it as if you have 613 strings
Okay,
connected to the spiritual realm.
right.
You
that-
do one of those strings, it's going to have an effect. In other words, it's going to do some massive things up there. Massive.
Uh-huh.
Massive. Not just
Yeah.
massive.
Okay.
And those will in turn bleed into a manifestation down here. It's a chain. It's a chain kind of. It's like a circuit. It's a circuit.
All right.
You have a rope
Yeah.
that extends into infinity. You shake the rope, it is going to go and shake things up there. Okay? But it works in ways that your thoughts have massive effect in the spiritual
How
realm.
can affect my thoughts here in somewhere else, in someone that maybe I don't know?
Big time.
We have no idea how interconnected we are
Oh, be
and really
careful.
what is going on. Okay? We are so interconnected. And the thoughts we think, if you look in the first char of Chaim Volushin's big book, famous sefer, It just eluded me. Chaim Voloshin, Nishmas, it's not called Nishmas Adam, sorry, now it's Nefesh HaChaim. Nefesh HaChaim. Nefesh HaChaim, their very first gate, talks about the thoughts, how your thoughts can destroy a temple.
The whole concept of Yerusha Shemayim, that's the root. That's to teach you purity, connect with God. Everything should be pure.
But we're training.
But that's
Don't worry, it's user-friendly.
Yeah, for sure.
The Torah is very user-friendly.
Sure.
Okay?
And there, yes, I
There was a great, a long time ago when I was out of the cave, my dad sent me this movie, thought it was very interesting, called Sphere. Sphere, did anybody know it? Science fiction.
Underwater, at the bottom of the ocean, they found something. They thought it might have been a spaceship or a time champion. What it was actually?
I think it was with Dustin Hoffman.
Oh, really? Oh.
And I forgot who. Anyways, the idea was they found this ship underneath the ocean. It was, and they needed a special team to go, and they could go into this ship. They thought it was an alien ship, and it ended up being really a ship, a space shuttle, but it was 300 years in the future, that somehow ended up being back in time in the bottom of the ocean.
Right.
And they noticed there was one article, weird thing inside this ship, which was this big silver sphere.
Yeah.
And what happened was, I'm just going to cut to the chase because, save you guys from seeing it. Okay? You don't need to go kind of save you. But it was a very dynamic concept. Now Alan's getting cold.
I'm good.
Okay.
You deserve to be cool. I'm just sitting here listening.
The dynamics of this is we're a little off topic, but this is unique. Okay. What happened was one guy he walked into the sphere. No, you're not supposed to go into the sphere. There's military around, there's security. He went into the sphere. He comes out. They find him, and he passed out. He wakes up, and then he started to, he seems to be normal, but they're observing him, and he keeps reading 2,000 Leagues Under the Sea, this book, and I don't even read the whole book, 2,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but it's the weird thing is when it stops at a certain part of the book where the rest of the pages are blank because it was attacked by a monster. And it freaked him out, and he didn't want to read about the monster that attacked. But the weird thing is, all of a sudden, the place where they were underneath the water, the station, got attacked by a monster. And then other people started to go into the sphere. And then what it was a gift, this sphere. This gift was something that if you enter into it, it manifests your thoughts. So if you have fears, it manifests your fears. Okay?
So is this kind of like when the four tzaddikim, was Rabbi Akiva, the four went into the harness and one died, one became insane, one was okay.
I never thought about that. Let me think about that one. It could be, but I don't think it's as that. They were trying to affect the redemption, actually. They tried to do a 4-man operation where it was supposed to be only one man goes in. But they tried with 4 men, that's why, okay? But Rabbi Akiva came out unscathed, Baruch Hashem, and all of our oral law comes from him because of that. In any case, the concept was, okay, that this thing is manifest, and there were earlier movies they made out of it. This was just a weird science fiction. There was a movie that I'm trying to find that was in the 50s called Angry Red Planet, where also they were on this planet, and whatever their fears were, there was manifesting. It manifested their fears. So obviously this group came to realize we got to get rid of this thing because we're not mature enough to handle it. Mankind cannot accept this gift. We have to wish it away, and so they got together, did a meditation, and returned the gift. They de-gifted. Okay, not re-gifted. They de-gifted. Okay? So the idea was because mankind is not mature enough to handle this because they're full of crud. Their brains are full of crud.
Yeah.
And they got all kinds of emotional stuff going on. If you're imbalanced, boom!
Yeah.
Now the Torah is that, in my opinion. Okay? But it's user-friendly.
All right.
Okay? In other words, a lot of times the big sages, the big rabbis were able to manifest things, and they used the Torah to manifest it. It happens actually all the time with the big rabbis. The big rabbis were really masters of it. They can actually use the Torah to actually bring about Yeshua's salvations for people. Hanina ben Dosa did it. A person fell in the well. This person used to supply well water for all the people who would come to the pilgrimage in Jerusalem. And one happened. His daughter once fell into the well. You know, these wells are deep and big, and who knows how expansive it goes. And they went to the big sage at that time, and they're going, she fell in the well. She'll come up. She'll be fine. And like 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours pass, and they don't see her. Right? And like there's no one could live under that. They keep coming every hour, going, like, she didn't come up. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Right? Finally, like 7 hours later or something, they come to like she's come up already, and then they go back and they find out she just came up and she's fine. And they go, what's with that, Rebbe? Right? She says, well, this guy did a mitzvah with the wells, and therefore it couldn't be that he would get damage from the mitzvah, the good deed that he did by supplying water to people. But then the weird thing is, after Hanina ben Dosa passed, the same guy had a son who passed away from thirst. He got caught in the desert and died. And they go like, well, what happened? Right? They didn't have this sage to go ahead and use the Torah to go ahead and bring about this kind of reality. Okay? The Torah really is a key to doing that. A lot of times it's done like that. A lot of times.
Yeah.
I know one friend of mine who's there was meningitis going around in Israel, and his son had a fever. 1 day, 2 day, 3 day. They had to take him away in an ambulance. Finally, they took him away in the ambulance, and as the mother went with the kid away in the hospital, and the father, closed the door, the ambulance drove away, and he sees this Hasidic Rebbe coming out of this other house with his whole entourage. And he jumps in front of the Rebbe. He says, Rebbe, they took my son to the hospital, right? And the Rebbe goes, oh, what's the name of your son? He says, his name is Yaakov. This week's Parsha is Vayechi Yaakov, which means that when Yaakov lived, Vayechi Yaakov. He'll be fine. And he kept walking. Kid was okay. And by the way, he turned before he got into the car, the Rebbe. It's not meningitis, it's just a fever. It's fine. Right? They know things too, right? There's big rabbis do big things, okay? So the idea really is the Torah is we're talking about like Sefer Yetzirah, creational science and things like that, okay? We went a little bit off topic, but it's good to know because our tefillahs and our good mitzvahs do tremendous things in the spiritual realm. We don't know. Okay? Don't get too heavy. Don't get too freaked out. You have to be happy. That's the most important thing. Okay? Remain calm and remain happy. Okay? It's user-friendly.
Okay.
It's user-friendly. It's very user-friendly. Unbelievable. It knows your steps. God knows the level you're on. He knows every single step that you have to deal with in order to develop yourself to come to the right, okay? And no accident that everybody is in this room, okay? So lock the door. Just kidding. Okay, let's go.
All right.
We have a few more minutes, okay? So the Sefirot in man. So, like I say, this is the end. This is the end, okay? This is the 3-column array. We're going to talk a lot about the 3-column array, okay? Okay, so here on page 25, in the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. So what is this image that he created? And when he said, let us make man in our image, so the famous classic commentator Rashi says that it was a mold, a pre-made mold that God had made in order to make man in, called the image. It's not God's image, so to speak. God said, let us make man in our image, in our likeness and our image. Likeness means mold. Image means he'll have seichel. He'll be endowed with creative intellect. Okay? So the idea really is, the way that everybody explains this mold is this, Ten Sefirot. Okay? As you're going to see right now. Okay? One, okay, man is seen as a microcosm of God's creative powers. Thus, man is a microcosm of the sefirot. In other words, the sefirot are in mankind. Okay? I'll just do a little thing here. Okay? So we look at this as really being this, the head. Okay? This is the head. You'll have the crown. You'll have the right brain and the left brain. Okay? And then what you're going to have here, right, is the right arm, the left arm, the torso, right leg, left leg, and this is the sexual organ, and this is the crown of the sexual organ, or the female, or the wife. In any case, you have here the image of man by having a 3-column. Man is a 3-column kind of dude. He's got like 3 columns, right, left, and center. Okay, so therefore, in one just basic, very basic. That's why the Jewish law is, if you hang a person, if the Jewish court would hang a person who had the death penalty, they can only hang him. They hang him up, homage, just before sundown and take him down right away. You're not allowed to leave a dead body hanging overnight. It's forbidden to leave any body hanging because, and the reason is a bizarre reason. It's really bizarre. It's because man is made in God's image, and people will get confused, thinking that God is hanging. What? Whatever it is, it messes up the psyche of man. It goes somehow in a subliminal type of way to mess up man if he would see a body hanging overnight. So the idea really is because of that image thing, because we don't know what really impresses in us, in our psyche. Okay, you know, come on, we only use how much percent of our brains?
Yeah.
4%, 10.
It's a part of the brain that it's very much there, and we're in touch with.
Our brains are sucking in so much energy and so much data right now, but the brains are really mostly filters. The way I understood it, they're filters. They're filtering out all the information. And all the people that take the hallucinogenic drugs, it blocks the filters, and that's for all this information then is his experiences. The information that's really all there the whole time. Okay? It's always the blocking of the filters. You have a question?
Well, you're going to have to come to it next week because it's a big one. Why is Elohim plural?
Okay, we'll get to that next week. It's a good one. I'll just answer on one foot. Okay? Elohim is a very word because you understand. It means powers, but really we call it, when we refer to God as Elohim, because we refer to He is the universal source of all powers. In other words, what we experience to be powers, we know there's only one power. So when we refer to it in a holy way, we say Elohim. But if you're going to refer to it, but you know the same name Elohim,
Yes.
People use it for other gods as well.
Yes.
Elohim, Acherim, right? So therefore it has the dark aspect to it, which refers to those separate powers, okay? As in their separate sense, the sun, the moon. But we refer to the universal power. Anyways, that's in a nutshell.
Okay.
Number 2, the qualities. Also, these sefirot are going to represent the qualities in man, such as fear, love, etc., are a reflection of the qualities God uses in running the universe. I said that these sefirot are called the hanhagot, ways that God runs the world, how He drives. How do you like my driving? Imagine God's bumper sticker. Okay. How do you like my driving? Okay.
100.
You know, big. And most people don't like the way he's driving. What are you going down this road for? It's so bumpy and irritating. Is there any air conditioning here? What's going on? What kind of neighborhood is this? Okay. Most people don't like the way God is driving. They have problems with it. Instead of enjoying the ride, they always have confetches, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So God is running the world, and how He runs the universe, and He runs the universe through these qualities, such as fear and love. That's the biggest ones. Okay, so we look at always this sefirah. I'm going to tell it. Don't worry, we'll get the names. This sefirah is called the sefirah of love. This one is called the sefirah of fear. Okay, so sometimes God wants to awaken people, he'll use this energy. People will become awakened and become frightened. Okay? Who's going to win the election? Okay? Shh, let's not go there. Shh. But we all know what was going on beforehand. Everybody's on shpilkas, okay? Everybody. Okay? The entire world. God is awakening the world through this quality. And love, okay? After the elections, for some people. For some. But it doesn't matter. Love also is an awakening. If a person has an awakening of love, okay, and he feels love for something, right? Obviously, that's an awakening of something much higher that is going on, okay? These are qualities that God expresses in the world, okay? And in personal lives as well. And of course, we have those kind of same emotional energies that we also have to balance. Have to balance. Have to balance, okay? Every quality must be balanced. Love, fear, glory, ego, right? All of those. The human body is patterned after the anthropomorphic array of the sefirot, which is what I showed you. And this serves as a perfect paradigm of extremely varied forces working in synchronized balance and harmony. And they are differentiated and interdependent. Don't forget, when we said that this array of the breaking of the 7 kings who had no connection to each other, right? All of a sudden, what happened? Here comes man on this day 6 of creation. Don't forget, we were saying in creation, the 6 days of creation, each one of these vessels was being fixed. But it was being fixed in such a way, and then came man. Man was a very unique character, because man here was the antithesis of a free will entity, and he included with his free will all of those vessels in a single unit. In other words, all the 10 Sefirot are included in him. He has 3 columns about him. Therefore, he made these dudes get together. And everybody has to work together. The right arm has to help be in harmony with the left arm and the body, and the left leg has the right leg, and everybody's got to work together. And here was man who came on the scene of the exact idea, concept that is manifest of varied energies that work together. Okay? So that's the idea of the 10 Sefirot. Okay? So we have microcosm. Yes, all the creative powers. Man is very creative. Qualities, emotions, and even in physical form. Okay? The first 3 of the 10 Sefirot are understood to be the mental powers, as opposed to the lower 7 are emotional in nature. Okay? And this is a very important split that I split with you. And we're going to end off with just this one thing, okay, that I must tell you before we are to proceed, okay? Now, each one of these Sefirot is going to have inside of them another set of 10. Okay? Each one has 10. And then, of course, each one of those also has 10. It's important to know that, okay? So each one of these has 10. Okay? Okay, so we'll stop now. This is a good place to stop. And then, God willing, we'll start with the mental Sefirot. Okay? Next week, Emir Hashem. Should? Any questions?